Once my grandfather Perejilo went into the movie theater with a whole pot of pozole and I told him, "They're not going to let you in, Grandpa." But the old man grabbed his pot as if it were a luxury suitcase and said, "Of course they will, pozole is culinary culture, kid." So, halfway through the movie, he takes out his spoon and starts serving. And even the guy in the row behind shouted, "Give me some with extra radish, man." But the problem was that the theater manager showed up because the theater ended up smelling like a town fair and my grandpa was banned forever. One time at school, I was messing around with my buddy Chuleta, just chilling, until Mr. Canuto saw us and got mad and even put packing tape on our mouths so we wouldn't talk. But to get my revenge, I almost made him quit because he thought I was hacking his body since I was there gossiping with Chuleta. So I made up that I had a universal, invisible remote control to control people in the classroom however I wanted. Then the teacher saw me pointing the invisible remote at him and yelled, "Manuel, stop playing around and get to work." I didn't say anything. I just pressed the imaginary mute button and pointed at him saying, "I muted him. Now go ahead. Tell me everything." Chuleta started choking with laughter and the teacher was left stunned, thinking I had really messed him up. In the end, they called my parents in for trying to silence authority. Once I almost changed my name and fled the country. I gave my girlfriend's dad the most romantic massage of my life, mistaking him for my girlfriend. I had surprised her at her house with plans to be the best boyfriend, but the living room was dark. I saw a lump lying on the couch, completely covered with a blanket but with the feet sticking out, and I thought, this is my golden opportunity, without saying a word. So I wouldn't ruin the moment, I took out a lavender cream I had in my backpack. I sat on the edge of the couch and started giving him the premium treatment. Deep pressure, knuckles even cracking their fingers one by one. Inspired, I leaned in close and whispered, "Do you like it? How does that feel, babe? You deserve this and more." The problem is that the guy didn't say anything and just stayed quiet, enjoying the massage for 10 more minutes. Until my girlfriend walked in and turned on the light, my heart nearly leapt out of my mouth. I was rubbing her dad's calluses. The man got up really relaxed, patted me on the shoulder and said, "No one had ever rubbed them like that, son-in-law. You're hired?" My girlfriend ended up crying because it was too intimate, and now my girlfriend's dad texts me every Sunday asking if I'm going to come do him the favor. One time a priest almost broke my nose right in the middle of mass because he wanted to throw holy water as if he were putting out a fire, and he ended up humiliating a poor man. It all started when at the end we all went up to the front for the blessing, and that priest had the bad habit of sprinkling the water with a giant extra long metal holy water sprinkler, but not in a normal way but with absurd force, as if he were throwing a sacred spear. So we all walked up very serious, making the sign of the cross, and in the back a lady was shouting, "Over here, Father, over here." Meanwhile, a man who was standing right next to me just stepped back because he already knew how that crazy guy gets. But when Father picked up speed, he made such an exaggerated movement that the stick slipped out of his hand, and all I saw was something silver. It was spinning toward my face as if I was doomed, but then I ducked down purely by instinct. The holy water sprinkler grazed my forehead, kept going, and hit Mr. Pelon, who was behind me, with a hard blow. The blow sounded terrible, like a ladle hitting a pot. The poor guy sat down from the shock, completely dazed on the bench and knocked out. Then his wife screamed,
"Father, you knocked him out!"
The nervous priest, instead of helping him, poured more holy water on him, thinking it would calm things down and bring down the Holy Spirit to heal him. That's when the man opened his eyes, confused, and said, "Did I die already, or why are you baptizing me again?" And from the back, a little kid shouted, "That priest doesn't bless, he shoots." One time at a bakery, I accidentally became a thief and they kicked me out for eating all the bread without permission. My mom had left me in line just for a moment, but I saw a tray with little pieces of bread cut into cubes. I took one, then another, and since nobody said anything, I thought it was unlimited samples, but it wasn't for tasting. It was bread cut up for a special bread the lady was preparing in the back. And when she saw me, half the pile was already gone. I had crumbs even on my eyebrow and she yelled at me,
"Kid, you shouldn't taste that."
And my mom made me pay for the bread with my savings. And since that day, they call me the bread thief. One time when we were at mass, my cousin Sardina shouted, "It's a miracle, the Virgin is crying," because he saw drops falling from her eyes. But the news spread faster than free Wi-Fi. Everyone was crying, people praying, the priest singing and saying, "This is a divine message." Then Sister Maria arrived with a little ladder, climbed up, checked the statue, and discovered there was a leak right above it. And in the end, my cousin became the official heretic of the bakery. Once in middle school, I was almost expelled for making the most annoying kid in the class immortal. It all started because that guy stole my lunch, hid my notebook, and to top it off, said in front of everyone, "If you cry, I'll record you." Because I was hanging out with my buddies Rubenchas and Venenito, who had the brightest minds for mischief in the whole school, and we came up with a really dumb revenge plan. We set up an old school camera recording inside a cardboard box like it was a photo booth for the most handsome guy in the class. The annoying kid, because of his ego, fell for it completely. He stuck his head in to see how the camera was recording, and from behind we threw flour, confetti, and a water balloon at him. The problem was that the guy slipped, panicked, and ran across the yard all covered in white, screaming like a possessed blender. Right when they were recording the school's anniversary video, we were dying of laughter until the principal asked to check who had caused the white powder incident. I already saw myself getting expelled and cleaning bathrooms until I was 18, but the best thing happened the next day. Turns out the camera never stopped recording. They uploaded the full video to the school's Facebook group, and everyone saw that Castroso, before the disaster, was bullying everyone, saying I'm the most handsome and nobody can beat me. They didn't punish me. They took away his scholarship, and since then they called him the Flower Castroso. Once at a family party, my cousin El Kiko was unbearable because he had just been given the latest iPhone and he felt like the coolest one in the family. The guy spent the whole party recording us to make fun of how we danced and posting stories to humiliate us. And I was already getting really mad, so I waited for him to go stuff himself with cake to play a prank on him and humiliate him. I walked up to the table, grabbed his phone, and listened to the little devil whispering in my left ear. I connected his phone via AirPlay to the giant screen in the hall, where they were showing some family photos. I didn't delete anything. I just opened his gallery and projected a video where the fool was in the bathroom a few minutes earlier, trying to look handsome in the mirror, while he was saying that the food at the party was garbage and that the birthday girl's dress was bought at a second-hand sale. Chaos broke out instantly. My whole family saw El Kiko in 4K criticizing everyone. While he was picking his nose, my aunt dropped her plate and went straight at him with her heel in her hand, and Kiko's scream could be heard all the way out on the street. The best part is that the video was saved in the family account backup, and it's been 5 years, and every time Kiko tries to show off, my dad plays it on the living room TV to watch his eternal humiliation and our absolute satisfaction. One time I almost got expelled for poisoning the principal's son because that little rat fell right into a trap that wasn't even a trap. The kid had the habit of stealing everything from backpacks, lunches, coins, bills, juice boxes, anything that sparkled. So one day my mom sent me with a weird little bottle of activated charcoal with lemon because my stomach was messed up. It was hell, and she warned me, don't even think about lending it because it looks like poison. I left it in my backpack and went to PE. Then, a little while later, you hear a bunch of yelling in the yard, and the principal's son comes out coughing, spitting, farting with his mouth all black, his teeth dark, lips painted like a cartoon villain, and his shit-stained pants screaming, "They poisoned me!" When the principal found out, I was almost sent into exile, but they checked the cameras and it clearly showed how that little angel, he would steal my little bottle and chug it, so I wasn't expelled, but they stopped calling him junior principal and started calling him the poopy principal. One time, my mom almost kicked me out of the house because I made my 5-year-old little brother stop talking for 3 whole days because I was fed up with him tattling on me for everything. So I came up with an evil idea and I told him,
Did you know that if you say your name 3 times in a row, you'll forget who you are and get confused with someone else forever?
That idiot believed it completely. So from that moment on, the kid stopped saying his name. He wouldn't even answer when people asked him, "What's your name?" And my mom was in a panic thinking he had some kind of trauma or something. They took him to 2 psychologists and the kid would just shake his head in fear and point at things. But my mom caught me when she heard me say, "Nobody, don't be a coward." And my little brother started crying and screaming,
I don't want to forget who I am.
And there, they exposed me in front of the family and took away my Xbox for 2 months. Once, a friend destroyed his uncle's political career, the most pious one, in front of all the press. Because he thought that money laundering was a magic trick to make the bills look new, and they were at a charity event with photographers and important people, and his uncle was giving a speech about honesty. But my friend remembered that the day before, he saw him in the basement with black bags and heard him tell his accountant, "Tomorrow we start laundering all this money." To help him look like a magician, he jumped on the podium, grabbed the mic and yelled,
Everyone support him! My uncle is going to launder the millions he has hidden in the warehouse so they can shine!
His uncle's face turned gray. The reporters were taking pictures like crazy, and the chief of police got up from his chair, very interested, and my buddy, really excited, told all the media,
Bring soap! Even my uncle will help us scrub!
His mom tackled him like she was an NFL player, and his uncle ended up on the news in handcuffs. In the end, he realized it wasn't magic. And now the photo of my buddy pointing at the warehouse is the official sticker for "The law caught up with us." Since that day, his family only lets him talk to the dog. One time, I almost got kicked out of Cremes in front of the whole school because I tried to pocket a strip of tickets. I thought no one would notice because a teacher who was starting the games tripped over a cable, threw her box on the floor, and the tickets scattered everywhere. It felt like God gave me a special offer, so while everyone bent down to help, I did too. But I really started collecting tickets and putting them in my own pocket. I told my brother Moharin to grab some too. Later, we wrote everything, but he just stared at me like he was at a funeral and did nothing.
He told me, Are you serious? They're going to catch us!
And that, instead of stopping me, got me even more fired up because in my mind, the faster I picked them up, the less suspicious I looked. So I stuffed a bunch of them, nicely folded into my sock and walked away like nothing happened. First I paid for the mechanical bull, then a Coke, then some chips, then the mechanical bull again since I was starting to feel like a businessman. And then, at one point, I heard the teacher shout,
We're missing a lot of tickets!
And another one said,
Check the kids!
And that's when it was over because Moharin, instead of helping me, went straight to my mom to tell her,
It wasn't me, but he's being really weird about his ankle.
So they stopped me right there, made me take out the tickets I had rolled up in my sock in front of everyone. My mom gave me a smack on the head so hard I saw stars. The principal made me spend the afternoon picking up cups with a sign that read, I didn't come to the fair, I came to commit crimes. Once in middle school, my teachers hated me with a passion because I threatened the school with a crazy little note I wrote just because we were in class. The annoying teacher entered the classroom and said,
Today there's a pop quiz, slackers.
So I, all nervous, wrote a post-it, if things go badly for me today, there will be consequences tomorrow. Because in my mind, it sounded like Terminator. But the nosy kid in the class read it, widened his eyes and shouted, Teacher!
Manuel has a threatening note.
So the teacher stormed over to my desk, read the post-it, and they called the assistant principal who said to me, What consequences, young man? And I said, Well, my mom is going to beat me up, sir. And the worst part is that those idiots told me they thought I was going to start an American-style school shooting. Once in elementary school, I was just calmly standing during the ceremony. Until out of nowhere, a girl named Mari threw up and then fainted in front of everyone. But the worst part is that I was standing behind her because it was already a tradition that at every damn ceremony she would turn green and throw up. But that Monday was a total disaster because they would already send her without breakfast. But the night before she had eaten rice pudding. So before the disaster, she whispered,
Oh, I already saw St. Peter.
And she let out the whole gift all over Pansas's back because he was standing in front of her. But Mari got up 2 minutes later and asked, Is recess starting now? While we covered our noses, the principal sent us back to class because of the smell. Since then, whenever Pansas is in front of Mari, he brings an umbrella. Just in case, one time I almost scared my kindergarten teacher to death just out of boredom and a bit of psychological terror. It all started because the teacher got fed up with me talking non-stop in class. So she sent me to the corner of the classroom to stare at the wall as punishment. She thought that would make me quiet, but she didn't realize that I talk non-stop. So I started whispering and letting out some nervous giggles while pointing at nothing. Then the teacher came over furious to scold me and asked,
Who are you talking to, boy? There's no one there anymore.
But I wasn't scared. On the contrary, I turned around with the most serious face a 5-year-old boy could make and said,
With Carlitos, the boy who's sitting on your shoulders.
The woman immediately turned pale and looked back very slowly, but obviously she didn't see anything because there was only air. But I decided to raise the stakes so she would never bother me again, and I whispered to her,
Carlitos says he doesn't like when you yell at me. And tonight he'll visit you at 3 a.m. so you can play the same game he did before staying here.
The poor woman didn't even finish the class. She asked for permission to leave because, according to her, she wasn't feeling well and she didn't come back for the whole week. The funniest part is that Carlitos was the name of my hamster, but the trauma I caused that lady must still be in her medical record. And from that day on, the teacher would pray the rosary before starting class. One time, I ruined my aunt's wedding anniversary, the snobbiest one, in front of my whole family. Because I thought having a lover was like a super important professional title like being a doctor. We were in the middle of a fancy dinner with crystal glasses and everything, and my aunt was bragging that her husband had finally gotten a promotion. But I remembered that the day before I had heard my mom say on the phone, "My poor sister, she doesn't know her husband has had a lover for a year now." So since I wanted to make a good impression, I stood up, asked for silence, and shouted, "Congratulations, uncle. For your new lover you've had for a year, my mom says you've been with her for a year. You must be getting paid really well." The whole room fell into such a cold silence that you could even hear the buzzing of the flies. My aunt dropped her glass, my mom turned red, and my uncle started sweating like he was in a sauna. And I, all innocent, asked, "Why are they crying? Aren't they going to give him a bonus?" My aunt stood up screaming, my mom pulled me by the hair, and my uncle ended up sleeping in a hotel bathtub. In the end, it turned out it wasn't a job, and now at family gatherings I'm forbidden to speak unless there's a lawyer present. A teacher once humiliated me by making me stand in front of the class with my arms up. She'd caught me passing a note, and I had already been shaking for 20 minutes while she kept yelling at me as if I had hacked the system, but she was terrified of cockroaches. Then I saw that behind her desk, the classroom mirror was hanging, and I got the worst and best idea. I quietly and seriously said to her,
Miss, don't turn around quickly, but there's been a mutant cockroach behind you for a while.
The woman froze, then suddenly turned around, spilled her coffee, slipped, and started asking where it had gone because she couldn't see it anymore. The best part was she forgot my punishment and ordered the classroom evacuated. When I was 7, I became a blackmailer and scammer of the Tooth Fairy because I wanted an Xbox the dirty way. I was going to knock out my own teeth to get money, but I thought,
one tooth isn't enough for the controller, but with 6, I'm already a millionaire.
So I tied a string to the doorknob and pulled out 6 teeth that weren't even loose one by one, and at night I put the loot under my pillow. Then I fell asleep dreaming that I was already level 100 in GTA, but in the morning there was no money, just a note from my dad that said, "Perez doesn't buy dirty merchandise." They took me to the emergency dentist and my dad yelled, "Are you paying with your piggy bank, thief?" Sadly, I ended up toothless, broke, and whenever I asked for money they'd say, "Open your mouth to see if you have any credit left." Once my cousin Robalina nearly caused chaos at the movie theater by convincing everyone the ceiling was collapsing, all due to a malfunctioning 4D effect. We were watching a horror movie at the late night premiere. The theater was packed and the atmosphere was super tense. But in a scene where a door was creaking, Robalina got a drop from the air conditioner on her forehead and screamed like she was possessed, "The ceiling is splitting! We're going to be crushed to death!" Then, since we were in the dark, people went into apocalypse mode. Some guys jumped over the seats. A lady dropped her popcorn and started praying at the top of her lungs. In seconds, everyone was crowded at the emergency exit, pushing each other like it was the Titanic. The manager turned on the lights and the guards came in with shields because they thought it was a shooting. Meanwhile, Robalina was crying and telling me, "I felt like the sky was falling on us, dude." When they checked, it was only the air conditioning pipe leaking. The worst part is that they escorted us out with shields because in the panic, a guard bit Robalina's hand so she would let him go first. Now her crazy face, all messy haired, is posted in the cinema offices like the crazy 4D lady. Since that day, my family has forbidden her from going to any horror movie, especially a 4D one. One time, my mom almost kicked me out of the house and sent me straight to a spiritual retreat because she swore I was filming an adult movie in my own room. We were in the middle of a family dinner with my aunts, the most religious ones, and I wanted to show off my new high-powered speakers. I connected Bluetooth and told mom, "Listen to this audio in 8D. It's like angels singing in your ear." But what I didn't know was that my buddy, Mugres, who's a professional idiot, had just sent me a voice message on WhatsApp right at that moment. So instead of relaxing music, a sound echoed through the whole house that went, "Yeah, just like that, don't stop," which made my most religious aunt drop her bowl of pozole and start praying right then and there. My mom turned red with rage, hit me with a rolled up newspaper and began yelling,
"Son of the devil, you filthy healthy boy. No wonder you never leave your room.
As for me, I was so nervous about the audio not stopping that instead of locking my phone, I accidentally turned the volume all the way up. The audio then played steadily, and my mom was already pulling me by the arm to take me to church so they could sprinkle me with holy water. But when she finally snatched the phone from me to see the evidence, she was speechless, because it wasn't a woman at all. It was Mugres recording his pug dog trying to climb onto a leather couch, panting like crazy because he's fat, and the sound of the banging was the dog's paws hitting against the furniture. In the end, my mom didn't kick me out, but now every time she sees me with headphones, she asks if the dog finally managed to get on the couch or if I still need spiritual therapy. One time, it almost made my cousin disintegrate because of a math mistake and a 2,000 peso cream because I found her in the bathroom with her face covered in a thick white paste. According to her, she was using up my aunt's miracle jar, which said in gold letters, "Takes off 10 years in a single application." So I yelled, "What are you doing, crazy?" She looked at me with all the hope in the world and said,
I just want to look pretty and young.
"My mom." I was shocked. My brain went into panic mode, and I blurted out the scientific truth. "Okay, genius, how old are you?" She, all proud, answered 8, and my response was immediate. "You're done for. If the cream takes 10 years off and you're 8, you have 2 left over. You're going to go back to the womb and end up as a fetus smeared on the tile." The girl's smile disappeared and she started checking her hands in terror, expecting them to become tiny. Then she started screaming.
I don't want to disappear, Manuel. Help me.
She ran out to the yard to sunbathe in the midday sun, to age quickly before the chemicals wiped her off the map. My aunt gave me a smack on the head for traumatizing her, but the best part was seeing her forcing herself to eat broccoli to grow and beat the cream. To this day, on her birthday, she asks me if it's legal to use the cream yet or if she's still at risk of disintegrating mom.
I'm a criminal. Mama, I'm a criminal. Mama,